Well, hello. Hi. How are you guys doing
Hello.
today? Hi, everybody, and welcome to a very special Sustainable Socials podcast that we have coming for you this week. Um, we're really lucky. Allie, A.K. Mulford, and I have a special guest with us today, and it's someone that I met in my other life that's not authoring, who I know through New Zealand and who came to me and my husband when we had our business doing social media marketing. And I think that Dr. Madeleine Amie is one of the most interesting women that has ever floated in front of me. In just meeting you has been life changing, I know, for myself and a lot of people, because you're also known as the Fierce Fawn over on Instagram. So before we go any further, Madeleine, would you do us a great honor and give us some information about who you are and what you do for the people that
Okay.
are listening?
Thanks, Anne. My name's Madeleine, and I'm a psychologist, and I've been working as a counselor and psychologist over the past 15 plus years in Australia and New Zealand. And I suppose over the last few years, I've been doing work around the fierce fawn, which is part of the fourth survival response. So that's probably the less unknown survival response. Most people know fight, flight, and freeze, but they don't necessarily know fawn, which is kind of fight's counterpart. It's the opposite, and it's when you're people pleasing or you're looking after everybody else's needs. Maybe you're a little bit shaky on your sense of self or your own identity, and your survival response is basically to give yourself away and be overly nice to other people at the expense of yourself. And the reason why it's kind of invisible is because no one's going to say, hey, look, buddy, I think you're being way too nice to everybody else and feeling it sorted out. Whereas people with a fight response that are more kind of narcissistic behaviors, people are going to be aware of that and say, hey, something's not right here. So it often goes undetected. So that's like one of my interest areas, and I do a bit of psychoeducation around that, and also do therapy work and online webinars.
Love it. And I know imposter syndrome has come up in those conversations that we had had. And I know you've spoken with other groups about that as well. Because are you still with the Focus Tribe online doing some of your work over there too as well?
Yeah, I've been doing articles over the last couple of years with Focus Magazine.
Yes, that's a spot too. If people want to read more from Madeleine, that is a great place to do it. But definitely, like today, talking about imposter syndrome for creatives, I think I've noticed, as I shared in my conversation with you a couple of weeks ago, Madeleine, and I don't know, in the author and publishing community, the last few years have been what we've called the gold rush, where people have been out there and going because they've just been writing to get stuff up, because it was a matter of more books means more income, et cetera, and getting that backlist. So they had something to market. And then there's been almost a natural slowing down that's been happening since COVID, and the lockdowns were happening around the world, because I think people just began either hitting walls, or maybe they were digging down and doubling down on what they had with their books and going out there. But I'm seeing where people have almost worked themselves into these in a frantic way. I don't know if I'm even putting it right. Allie, you can jump in at any point and be like, I've seen this, but I'm seeing a lot of people putting their hands up in these large author communities going, I am questioning what I'm doing. People that have 10, 15, 20, 30 or more books under their belt that have been around, questioning themselves, what they're bringing out to their readers, what they're bringing as far as value for other authors. And you can see where imposter syndrome is rife among creators right now.
And I feel like that fawn response that you were talking about too is so like kind of intricately linked with imposter syndrome as well, and that kind of people-pleasing desire to kind of always be of service and always doing something for others and always giving more of ourselves and feeling like, am I good enough? Am I giving enough? And yeah, it could like for you, for you probably work with a lot of creatives and kind of more sensitive introvert types like ourselves. But do you have any advice for people who are kind of suffering with imposter syndrome or have imposter syndrome pop up a lot in their lives, in their kind of creative endeavors?
Yeah, I think the difficulty with having creative projects, it's not like you're an accountant and you go to university and then you get into an accountancy firm and it's kind of like very structured and you know which direction you're heading. It's like when you're a creative, the world's your oyster and you could go any direction that you want to. No one's going to go say to you, you have to do this X, Y, Z, and then you're going to end up here. It's all a huge learning experience. And if you're more on the fawn side or you have imposter syndrome, a lot of people have imposter syndrome, that's normal. You can fill yourself with self-doubt and not really understand your own self-worth, or bend over backwards because you feel like if you're working at your peak or above your peak and doing everything you absolutely can, that's your only shot, that's your only chance. And it's quite hard to keep us, give yourself a structure and figure out what your framework is.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if you feel like you're experiencing imposter syndrome, kind of figuring out exactly where that comes from. Do you feel like you have to be an expert, or do you feel like you have to get everything perfect straight away? Do you have to nail it the first time? Or do you see that kind of likes or people interacting with your social media posts, is that validation of whether you're an imposter or not? Because if that's what you're seeing as like negative evidence, which is kind of fulfilling that imposter syndrome belief, then that's probably something that you'd want to change, because that's not going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, I feel like especially now, like before, authors already had imposter syndrome just with their writing of, is this book good enough? Will people like it? Who am I to be telling this story? Things like that. But now it's also the social media side. So much of us, we have to be online, we have to be marketing. And as you were saying, with like, a lot of the people that we talk to are can go down this rabbit hole of kind of being consumed with likes and views and how many comments on a post, and can really kind of have their day be ruined by having low engagement on a post and things like that. So there's like this whole other added layer now with social media specifically. And do you have any advice around like how to navigate like social media imposter syndrome as well, with all of the, nowadays they've gamified it so much that we're all kind of feeling like we're constantly comparing to our highest few days and things like that?
I know it can be so overwhelming and emotionally draining, especially if you've got those beliefs or those thoughts eating away at you, and you can get emotional burnout, if you're putting everything into social media and then looking at likes, and it's just can wreck your whole entire day. If you can find a way to reframe it in your mind where it's not linked directly whether you're an imposter or not, but perhaps this is just a suggestion, look at, feedback's important, and sometimes we can't get positive feedback all the time, and maybe you've put a post up there and hasn't got a lot of interaction, but that's a learning opportunity, and you can use that as experience. And you're not expected to get things right first time off, or even several months later, but you'll get better over time. And the more that you put yourself out there, and you can desensitize yourself to these experiences. And I know it's hard if you're really creative, but you're not used to putting yourself in the limelight. It can just be super overwhelming, and maybe want to think about, well, what is the most comfortable way for me to, I know I got to keep putting myself out there and I need to be consistent on social media. What is your kind of baseline comfort level? Is it just putting out a quote, or is it putting out a little snippet of your book that maybe you're not showing your face, you're not speaking, or you're not present, but at least that's something, and that's better than nothing. And then over time, you can get used to that and then increase it a little bit. Okay, well, now I'm going to show my face, or whatever feels comfortable, because you don't want to be emotionally overwhelming yourself to the point where you're procrastinating or avoiding, and then you bumped off the logarithm and you got to again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, I feel so seen right now.
I know.
So many of these. I was like making notes, just going, oh my goodness. One thing, going back to the perfectionism and the expertness, I actually wrote down about how social media definitely doesn't help that, because I feel like more people want to show up, feel they need to show up as an expert, knowing all the things and in that perfect way on social media, and not just what you're posting up there about, like, specifically for authors about their books, but amongst other authors as well, because you've got these giant author groups that people are in, that people are giving their opinion. And you can see, like, when somebody's like might be hopping in to like offer advice with something, and then other people come in and start giving their opinions, and you watch this one poor person that was trying to give like some nice piece of advice get like just ripped to shreds. You just like, and I feel like for something like that too, how does somebody, it's that reframing that is so interesting to me, because you really do need to kind of almost be in tune enough with yourself, or have a strong group of like support around you, would you think, to be able to go like, what is this, like, what is it about me, or do you see that I'm doing this, like, to have that, like, how can I reframe this in my mind, because I hear negative, bad, and like, I don't know, like, is that advisable? Like, do you go to that friend group? Do you need to be going into something like deeper in yourself? Like,
You got a support team, or where to access one, definitely be accessing your support team, because we can get so caught up in our own thinking and take things really personal as well if we have an experience like that. And then, if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, then you just can end up spiraling. So if you've got people to have your back and just be that voice of reason when you're feeling like that, that's just so valuable. But if you're the type of person that really struggles making comments, putting your opinion out there, saying something, and you do that, even if that other stuff happens, I mean, like, I think that's amazing. Like, well done.
right, you did it.
For being so brave, at least that's better than nothing. And everybody's allowed to have an opinion. And sometimes when we're feeling unsure of ourselves, we don't want to share opinions unless other people agree with them. But we all need different perspectives, and that's what makes everything so much more interesting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's
a really good point too, of like hoping that people will jump in agreeing with you before posting and things. And I know for me too, and I think a lot of authors struggle with this as well, is I've been on a quest for the last 2 years basically to try and make all of the positive things that are happening count for more than the negative ones, because I think a lot of us will have all of this praise or good reviews or positive interactions, and then one bad one. And that is the one that just kind of sticks in our brain and like we can't let go of. And then, we had all these like lovely things happen, but this one bad thing is the thing that kind of just like
hijacks everything.
It sticks onto us and kind of can ruin our whole day or our whole week, or even stop the creative flow where we can't even get back to writing because we're so hung up on this one negative interaction. And do you have any like advice or insights on how to kind of like unstick from those like negative moments?
Because our brain is primed to remember the not so good experiences, or the critical comments, because that's, if we remember them and we don't forget them, then we're protecting ourselves from other negative experiences. It goes back to that primitive brain. That's why it's so hard to remember all the good stuff when we have that one little niggly comment that's going to eat away at us, and our brain's going, hey, no, this is really important information, you need to remember this for next time. No, you don't. But if you have really good reviews, or somebody's sent you a message or a comment, or you got good feedback from your editor, or just anything, keep a journal of that. because it's a good
Ah.
reminder, and it's really nice. Like, it's a really nice thing to do after, you know, going back and reflecting and seeing all that nice positive evidence that's stored in your positive evidence bank. Because you need to remember those things too. You know, you're the type of person that just discounts compliments and, you know, positive messages. It's really important to remember them. And people don't generally say things just to be nice all the time. And if you've got it in a journal or you're keeping a log of it, you can be scientific about it and go, hey, I've got the same positive comment quite a few times. It must be true.
I like that. Or also, I gave Allie a little because I have an author journal. It's actually not on my desk right now. I put it over in the bookshelf, but Allie created an author journal based on her own journey. It was last year, wasn't it, that you
it's
published
just it's a little gratitude journal that I
about
started
specifically
because of
for
this.
what you said.
Yeah. Because my brain is just really bad at holding on to those positives, you know, they mean a lot to me in the moment and I'm like super grateful and humbled for them, but then I'm on to the next thing, and all of a sudden like a year will pass and I forget to kind of lift my head up and look at all of those things. So I tried to make a habit of, whenever I got, you know, a really lovely message or something really nice happened, like writing it down, so that on those days when the imposter syndrome was really strong, I could kind of reflect back on this whole book of, you know, kind of like highlight reel of positive things. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Hard to do. I forget about that.
Yeah, I know.
ADHD. I write things in the journal, but I will forget about the journal. So I'll write it and put it away, and then I'll spiral out over something else happening. Like, I need to put that journal like right here where it lived for a year until I decided to put it away a couple weeks ago because of that, like just to have that out. Because I do think having that, a positive reminder, just to be able to because I mean, since I was little, I can remember hearing people say it's always like you'll have 9 things said about you that are fantastic, but it's just going to take one. And it's so true. It's just that one thing. You can hear all these wonderful things, and that person says this one thing, and you just go, what could I have done better? I know for me, I start to try to like, well, how can I make it better? Maybe I should change this. Like, I am sometimes like, I will throw out the baby and the bathwater to make that person happy. And it's like, no, I've also had to stick to my own creative values as well. It's like marrying all of that and being able to, I think, walk away and have peace with it. In our like,
it definitely takes a while to master.
Yeah, for sure. I do feel like the first few books are always like, you get one bad review or one thing and you kind of want to completely change your writing style to appease this one person when, you know, 100 other people really liked the way that you were doing it. And you kind of, you know, if you're trying to write something for everybody, you won't be able to write anything at all, you know, because everybody likes different things. But it is really hard to kind of know what feedback to take on and what feedback to go like, no, this is actually not the direction that I'm heading in, and have that kind of clarity of voice as an author, you know, because we do get so much feedback constantly that it's hard to parse apart sometimes. Yeah.
Very overwhelming. Do you ever write down like the things that make your writing style, or your intentions or values around what you're writing as like a way to keep you on track?
Yeah, I think that's such a wise thing to say, because you know, as I've gone on, I've kind of gotten more clear of like, what are you gonna get out of like an A.K. Mulford book? Like, you're gonna get these things, like these are the tropes, these are the style, this is kind of like, there's always gonna be a found family moment, there's always gonna be like this % of the way, and it kind of starts to feel like I almost get it more of a sense of like what I like delivering and what my readers like delivering, and trying to like keep it like close to that, you know. But it was an ever evolving process for sure. Yeah.
That's, you know, I have a question about, because you had said something a few minutes ago about how we almost get overwhelmed and then we freeze and we end up not doing anything, or maybe walking away and just be like, oh, I can't do that, or that's too hard. Why do we do that? Why is that such a natural reaction, I think, in all walks of life, that when things start going wrong on that level, and you're looking at things and really doubting yourself, do you just want to go in? I mean, I know there's one, I think, level of like just wanting to go hide, where it's like, I just want to hide and not deal with it. But where is that just another response in protection of that, like tunnel in, go inward, just get away from it?
Yeah, and have that just big mental block. I think that nobody really wants to put themselves into an emotionally overwhelming situation. And I think when you're putting yourself out there, like on social media, or, you know, with you putting your writing out there to the world, sometimes you might have a really strong response where you might feel really strong anxiety, but then other times it might just quietly eat away and you don't realize what the temperature in the room is until you don't want to go there anymore, but you haven't realized.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it just can sneak up on you. And then you start being hard on yourself. Oh, I need to do this. I need to action that. And I'm procrastinating and I can't. And you might not tie the two together.
Yeah.
So it's really important to look after yourself and check in with yourself as well. Like, how you're feeling, how really difficult is this? Or is this running smoothly? Do I need to take time out? Do I need to take a break where I'm absolutely not thinking about this at all so I can re-energize? Because what we do is we think about it without thinking about it, you know, it's just at the back of our head. And so we've never taken a break away from the situation, but we've used up our energy quota for dealing with it. So when it comes to actually doing the thing, you can't. So
that is so both of us right now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're both like me this whole week not being able to write because I just felt like so burnt out from the last book launch and kind of procrastinating and avoiding the laptop. And
oh my gosh. Yeah. And I just delivered a book to my editor this past Saturday, and I loved writing it, but it was the hardest thing to get uphill, and I started procrastinating. And full honesty about it, like about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I started having my own issues with imposter syndrome about some of the stuff that I'm doing and that Allie and I are embarking on. And I saw it happening. I've had enough therapy in my life. I'm watching it in front of me. I'm even stepping outside of myself laughing about it. But when it happens, and once it gets going, you can't stop it. You just have to get on that train and figure out like how to ride it, how you're going to get through it. But yeah, and it's like, and I knew it was happening the whole time, because every time I didn't want to open my computer to work on it, or I was using that energy, like you were saying, of I'm dealing with this thing, but I'm not dealing with it, procrastinating and taking a break, quote unquote, like not really, still thinking about it, and beating myself up the whole time and making myself feel worse for about 5 days straight.
And it just snowballs.
It does, and it snowballed into personal, like it comes out so professional into personal into other things. And where I was like, I had this one day I woke up and was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Oh my gosh. And then when I heard myself say that, I was like, oh, now you're being nice.
And how are you feeling now that you've got over that hump?
Amazing. And I'm looking back at that person, knowing what she did and knowing that I have more books that I want to come out this year, and I need to have a plan, because that monster is going to come back. The train's going to come back by. I'm going to end up on it. I just need to make sure I get off of it a lot quicker.
And remember this, how you feel right now, that, you know, once you get it all done, that's going to feel so good.
So good. It really is.
Don't focus on the pain.
End goal.
Yeah. Get to that end goal.
Yeah. I do feel like I have that with social media too, where there'll be times when I just don't want to be on social media, and like almost every month, like there'll be a time where I have so much anxiety around social media and posting and feeling like everyone hates me. At this point, it's just like, I know it's coming. Like it happens so regularly that I know like I need to just like take a break that week, not post or like step away. And even taking like a couple days where I've completely just put my phone aside, coming back, it's like this awareness of kind of the machine that I was like clicked into. I can feel it like in my body and my mind, how much more present I feel in my like physical life than kind of constantly thinking about like my online presence and my online kind of persona and life. And but every time I forget, I forget to unplug again, and I have to remember that kind of anxiety spiral that comes back with that kind of imposter syndrome and feeling like I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing and things like that.
But it's really good though that you can see that pattern, that you have that awareness, and okay, it's good if I regularly take some breaks here.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people have that, with social media now, like, and just how much news we consume and things like, I think for a lot of us who are more empathetic and creative and sensitive, we just kind of absorb all of this news and all of the stress and all of the feelings and things. And yeah, do you have like any tips or advice for navigating like now in a world that's like so kind of saturated with news and social media, for people who still need to be present on social media for like our businesses and being creatives? How can we like set some boundaries or like protect ourselves emotionally a little bit from all of that kind of overconsumption of media?
And it can be so overstimulating.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just like with technology now, it's like a flooding of information, isn't it? And
It
you
really
really
is.
have to put some limits and boundaries on it. Otherwise, it can just take over everything. So I think that's good. What you've done is that you've realized that you've got to take a step away, and everybody's got a different tolerance level for things. And if you're aware of what your tolerance level is, and when things start to get a bit stressy or you start to feel it in your body, then you know that every so often you've got to take that break away. And I guess what we don't realize, it's like you start to be a wind-up doll, don't you? And
Yes.
winding the toy up, and you don't realize how tight you are or how tight your body is. And if you can find things away from social media or activities where you can relax your body, where you get back to a state of rest and digest, if we're thinking about a nervous system, that's really important, because it's not good if we're in survival all the time for our health and our well-being. And then like with friends, walking your dog, yoga, whatever your jam is.
So I feel like when we put ourselves into fight or flight mode, it does this elevation of is it estrogen was one of the, oh gosh, I just remember at one time reading a study and working with a couple clients here and learning like exactly what that fight or flight does, like coming into your system and how it affects different parts down cellularly, how it can affect us. And it is really incredible how like that one little, it's like, that was caveman days. We had to run from cavemen. We don't need to run like the cavemen anymore. Like, take a breath.
A huge tiger might be just a little invisible tiger saying, you got to post on social media every day. How are you going to do that? And it's really cool, and you're getting stressed about it, but you still need to do it. And that's eating away at you, but it's activating your nervous system. And the stress hormone cortisol running through your body, you got more adrenaline. Your digestive system's not working as it should be, because you're stressed and you're in survival. So when you're in survival, you don't have time to sit down and eat if you're going to get eaten by a tiger. So that clicks on to how our body's functioning. So it can really change the whole balance of how we're living and how our body's functioning, and it's why our emotions live in our bodies.
Yeah. And you talked about, like going for a dog walk, doing yoga, like kind of getting unstuck, moving your body. Are there like other ways that like we can help regulate our nervous systems when we're like in that kind of heightened state?
Yeah, it depends what your personal preferences, you know. Tell clients sometimes, you know, like do breathing exercises, and people roll their eyes and they're like, I've been told to do breathing so much, but if
So
easy to do, then you know there's other things. Even if it's just having a shower, if you know that you're really escalated and your body's really tense, having a shower can switch you over. Having a cold shower, that can really switch you over. Not the most pleasant thing to do.
but I try
yeah.
it. I will try it for that.
Yeah, well, if you're feeling really escalated, that's probably going to shock you out of your emotional state for a few minutes. Yeah.
Well, I feel like too, like, so like if I was to tell somebody like they came to me and they were stressed out about imposter syndrome, could tell like some really good actionable tips to be, you know, grab a journal, write down some, you know, some positive things, and like just start journaling, you know, or get out there and move your body there. Just do something.
What is the meaning or values? Why are you writing in the first place?
Yes, that's a
it's
big
not
one.
to get likes on social media. It's because you want to share your stories with the world and other people, you know, they receive something wonderful about shared stories as well. So it's really important work. And also what makes you uniquely you. You can have all the experience and expertise in the world, but there's something about your own lived experiences, the way that you perceive the world, that's different to everybody else. And that's something special that you've got to offer. And so you can't possibly be an imposter because you're being yourself.
I love that so much. Somebody needs to put that on like a t-shirt or a poster so we can all look up and remember it. I do think there's so much power in like recentering on your why. You know, like before I published my first book, I wrote down a list of reasons why I wanted to tell stories, and you know, and none of them had anything to do with any numbers. Like there's no numerical values attached to any of it. And I feel like that is the place, like that's kind of the core that like you need to come back to sometimes, because we can get so in the weeds of, you know, there was a typo in this book or there's the thing, and we kind of get lost in that kind of higher level stuff, and we forget this kind of the reason why we started and why we are doing the thing that we love, you know.
And if you're a writer and you're a passionate writer, then you're gonna write.
Writers gotta write.
True. It's like if we could be doing anything else, we probably would, you know. It's not an easy thing to do. It's like there's some sort of kind of machine inside us, this kind of burning desire to tell stories that we kind of we can't help ourselves but do it.
Oh, Madeleine, thank you so much for giving us your time today. I feel like we've got so many like gold nuggets of wisdom that you have dropped.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
It's been so lovely chatting with you. I feel like this conversation will resonate with so many authors. I think everyone will be able to relate to the things that we're talking about. So thank you for coming on.
How can anybody listening find you if they want to get more of Dr. Madeleine, Amie, and the Fierce Fawn?
You can find me on Instagram under the Fierce Fawn, and if you want to learn more about the fawn response. And I'm going to venture into the world of TikTok as well. So,
come along, come to the land of the talk. We'll make sure we're going to put your information down in our show notes, because this will be on YouTube as well as on podcast land. But you know, thank you so much for being here today. And and to anybody listening, go back and listen to this again.
Hit save. Make sure you listen to this whenever the imposter syndrome's creeping in.
In your journal.
In general, and anything. Thank you so much.
Thanks.